Hello everybody, welcome to Wine World TV, the best wine show anywhere. I'm your host, Mark Fusco. Before we get started, make sure you're smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. Every like and subscription helps build the channel. Even better, spread the word to your friends about the best wine show anywhere. So, coming right up, I've got another interview from my time at the Texas Restaurant Association back in May of 2024. I chat with Rick Young, representing Hayashi Brewery, a sake producer. We taste through their line of sakes, including one named after him.
All right, everybody, so I'm still in the Japanese pavilion. I'm having a great time over here. I spent a lot of time yesterday here. Now I'm back to revisit some of my favorite tables. And I've got Rick Young here. Now, I did not get to see him yesterday. He was busy. And there's a reason why his table was busy all the time when I came by. So Rick, kind of tell us, you have a cool story, how you even got into this. So you're not just you didn't just like come over here just to represent something. You actually have some knowledge here, right?
Yeah. So I lived in Japan, I live in Japan right now.
Yeah.
And when I was first living there, I taught English to the locals. And then I happened to have an opportunity to meet an owner of a sake brewery. Mm-hmm. And after having some conversations, they invited me to just experience what it's like to make sake.
Right.
And I went there a few times. And around the same time that I was doing that, I was finishing up being an English teacher. And so at the end of teaching English, they said, hey, are you interested in coming to work at the brewery full time? And I thought about it, and I'm somebody who just enjoys experiencing life, right? So I was like, let's go for this. And then ended up working there for 5 years at the brewery. Mm-hmm. I experienced the whole process from washing the rice, cooking the rice, making the koji, making the actual moromi, so it becomes the mash and becomes the sake, pressing it, and then bottling it. So I've been through the whole process. The sake we have right here in front of us, I made all this with the team.
Yeah, he's got the text sheet here with his picture on it.
Yeah, and like, I had a privilege as well. One of the years I was there, they said, Rick, would you like to have a sake named after you? And I said, sure. And so we've made 3 versions of the sake that's named after me, which is here. This is Rick.
Okay.
And then this one is called Yu, which means dragon.
Yu, yeah.
In English. Mm-hmm. And this one is called You.
Like yes.
You.
You. Yeah.
You.
Yeah, we had a little
so these
brief.
Are the 3 we have today.
Yeah, we had a little brief pronunciation lesson. So if you ever watched my sake series, you'll know that I was really like, I'm going to pronounce every little vowel, and in some of the words I should not have done that. So that's actually the first time I've addressed that I've made some mistakes with my pronunciation. Yeah. But the message got across, hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, so this was really cool. So kind of talk about, so we'll start with the Rick. So that's maybe like the daily driver. Like that's, it's a good solid sake that you can enjoy anytime, any day, right?
It's dependable, it's reliable.
Yeah.
You can pair it with many different meals. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about it earlier, but of all the people who have come here today, only one person actually liked this one more. Everybody else is like, this one, is the fancy one for sure. Yeah. It's very elegant. It's very nice. But if I was going to drink consistently, this is the one that I want to drink consistently.
I like this.
You like this one more?
Well,
hey man,
I like them both.
Everyone's different.
But this one was like, I was like, wow. And we'll get to the wow here in a second. But but I really enjoy this one. And I made a comment, like they're doing some barbecue thing here, and nothing you can smell barbecue, but they were making announcements in between me doing videos about some master class or whatever. And one of the first things I thought of was barbecue. And it was probably just because I could see having it with barbecue. It's not smoky by any means, but it just reminded me with like, it'd be a cool barbecue thing. So yeah, we talked about how pairings with sake were really cool. You do lots of different things with it. But yeah, that was a really nice one. I really enjoyed it. You were saying that everything came from a specific prefecture?
Correct. So the brewery, Hayashi Shuzo, and the name of the sake brand is Minotengu.
Okay.
Is based in Gifu Ken, which is prefecture. Okay. Right. So like, if for anybody watching who's not familiar, instead of states in Japan, they have prefectures. Mm-hmm. And so everything in this, the rice, the kobo, the water, all comes from Gifu. The rice was even grown in the same city where the brewery is.
Cool.
So yeah, this is like your Gifu local sake.
Right. So in the wine world, this would be like, estate grown,
Exactly.
like grapes and everything. The winery's there, and it's all there. So you're the whole terroir idea, concept of terroir is there. Because even in the winery, that's the broadest sense of the word terroir is the winery also is part of that. And then the people, honestly, we are part of that, the influence of how you do things. But it's mostly thought about the land and everything associated with it. So you could think of this as effectively an estate-ish, type of thing.
Cool.
And then we moved up to this one, and this is the fancier one.
Yeah, this
and,
is your Ferrari, your Rolls
Ferrari,
Royce.
right? Yeah, and I really enjoyed this one. Now, one of the things that, besides getting my pronunciation lesson, right?
Do.
Say,
It's not easy.
He says it way better than I do.
I've been there for 7.5 years, so my pronunciation in the beginning was terrible. It's the hardest sound. I'm sure even if you asked her to pronounce it, it would sound differently than me.
Right, yeah. And I mean, even with other non-English languages, I do my best to pronounce it as well as I can. But like with this one, besides, and that translates to dragon.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So
you can also just call it dragon.
Or just call it dragon.
It's easier.
But one of the things that was really to make note of, and I think this has been the lowest number for a polish rate, is 28%. So you're really getting into the true heart of the rice.
Yeah.
That's the seppuku. No. What's
I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
I'll put whatever the term is. But anyway, to get the more you polish, the less you have to use, but you're also getting
to the heart of it.
The heart of it, truly the heart of it,
and pure, like the cleanest.
Yeah, the
flavors.
word I use is not right. I just realized what I just said. It's seppuku. That's not it. That's not the word. Anyway, I'll put whatever the word is for the heart of the rice grain. I watched too much of the Shogun stuff. Anyway, I butchered whatever I was saying, but that really. It's like a finer and finer quality of that rice.
Correct.
And what's the rice we're using for this one?
Yamada Nishiki.
Yes. He said it better than I did. I said okay. But that we consider that, or that's considered...
That is the best rice. The best rice when it comes to the highest quality.
Yeah.
Whenever you're making a Junmai Daiginjo or a Daiginjo, many of the breweries, especially the ones that will always consistently win awards, always use Yamada Nishiki from... where is it? Hyogo prefixture.
Yeah, I got corrected on that. It's not Hyogo, it's Hyogo. Okay. So, and this was fantastic stuff. And not that you can't make excellent sakes from other rices.
Correct.
Rice varieties. There's a couple
As you already
other
said,
ones.
this was delicious.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Different rice.
And there's a few other ones that I may put the names down that are considered, because I can't remember off the top of my head. I know we'll butcher the pronunciations again. But this was fantastic stuff. It was super smooth. It went down really, really nice. And I really enjoyed it. But then we get to...
Here, hold on.
Yeah.
Speaking of the rice, just something I think your viewers might find interesting that many people don't realize is that, for example, the Yamada Nishiki that's in this one is only used for making sake.
Right,
You don't eat that rice. Whereas this rice, it can be used for sake, or you can eat it. And so there's and there's other rices as well that are the same way. There's other sake only rice.
Yeah.
And then there's other rice that's table rice.
And that's an important point. And I probably briefly said that in my sake series. But yes, when you really are doing the premium rice, it's strictly just for that.
You would not eat it.
Same kind of idea with grapes and wine. Not that you can't eat Cabernet Sauvignon grapes, but we eat table grapes.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily make wine from them. You can, but
it's doable.
Let me tell you, the wine you make from those grapes is way better than. I mean, this is way better. This is a way better product than the wine you make from those table grapes. So, but yes, you can do both. But there are certain varieties of rice. If you're looking for premium stuff, you're going to use either Yamada Nishiki or another type of variety.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get to, what'd you call it? The Fiat?
Yeah, I call it the
Fiat, right? Because not everybody knows what the Fiat is,
No,
right?
yeah. In America, if you have viewers in Europe, they're like, oh, Fiat's normal. But in America, It's more of a unique or rare car that you.
Yeah.
I had some people come to the booth earlier, and they're like, I said the same thing: Honda, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, and then a Fiat. And then at the end, they're like, "What's a Fiat?" So they didn't even know what I was talking about, which kind of proves the point is that you don't really see it or know what it is. Most people don't know what it is.
And I told Rick that I grew up with a Fiat, so I know exactly what a Fiat is. Plus, being an Italian background, you kind of have to know what a Fiat is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was cool. So talk about how this was made versus the other sakes.
Yeah. So these are both Nihonshu, so they use the traditional koji bacteria to start with making the koji. This one, while it is still Nihonshu, the koji for part of it that they use is shochu koji instead of the Nihonshu koji. So they use that, and then they make a base with it, and where the rice and the water ferment together, and then they press that and mix it with a junmai ginjo.
Okay.
And that's where the alcohol comes from, the junmai ginjo, and the very unique but enjoyable flavor that this one has is that interesting rare combination combining the shochu flavors with the Nihonshu.
And you said that this is with the shochu koji, that it creates a very sweet tasting.
Well, it's not necessarily the shochu koji.
No, I'm sorry, not the koji.
It's just because there's no kobo.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the I don't remember
amazake?
The amazake. Not ya, but the amazake.
Which in Japanese means ama means sweet.
Sweet.
And then they
sweet sake. Yeah.
Together amai and sake together is amazake.
Right. Yeah. And it's not necessarily sweet sake.
It's not actually sake,
but it's just a sweet. It's a sweet part of it.
Correct, because it's the same process in that it's koji and water.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't have the kobo. The kobo is so the koji breaks down the rice into sugar.
Yes.
And then the kobo takes the sugar and turns it into alcohol. The amazake doesn't have the kobo, so there's no alcohol.
No alcohol, yeah. And
okay, so I get this might be a little confusing. Rick and I are throwing out a lot of terms, and obviously Rick knows how to make sake, and I have a very basic understanding of sake, and we're just kind of jumping around everywhere. So first, let's just go over how sake is made. You start with your rice, and then you polish it, and that polishing gets you what's called the shimpaku, or the heart. This exposes the carbohydrates. Then you're going to wash it, steep it, and then you're going to steam it. The steaming is important because it gets you warm, moist conditions that allows the koji, or the fungus, to interact with the carbohydrates to create sugar. At the same time you have koji in this single vessel, you have yeast. That yeast is going to change the sugar into alcohol. This creates your shubo, or seed mash. This is what we call multiple parallel fermentation. This is the only beverage that does that. In beer making, when you malt the grain, that gives you access to sugar. Then that malted grain is put into another vessel, and then yeast is added to that, and that gets you your fermentation. It's different from beer making because beer uses two different vessels to create the malting process, or access to the sugar, and then the fermentation process. Then once all this is done, you have your moromi, or main mash, and then the rest of the sake brewing process happens. So now amazake. So the same process, but without the yeast. That means the koji is creating sugar from the carbohydrates. And the koji you're using is usually meant for shochu. And that's going to create a different set of flavors. Now remember, shochu is basically rice whiskey, or a rice spirit rather than sake. So you combine the two of these things, and now you're getting a more unique tasting sake that is also sweet.
When I tasted it, it was sweet, but it wasn't cloying. It was balanced. I said it was like balanced, like a Riesling. So this is why I would call this kind of like the equivalent of maybe a Spätlese Riesling. So it's got enough of a sweetness level, but it's not like dessert wine sweet, not like cloyingly sweet. And you said that on the sake meter, this would Amazaki would be around like minus
120, yeah.
Right. And then this is a plus 5, okay, on the meter. So you get that average of minus 20,
correct.
Which is still a pretty decent number.
Sweet, but it doesn't taste that sweet.
No, it doesn't. It's balanced. I think there was the, and it has a 3.8 acidity. If I'm gonna get to, so that's pretty high compared to this one. This is 1.3.
Yeah.
So that would be, is that like in a grams per liter type of thing, or is that just a number? I can't remember.
Hold on, let me think here. I've done the test, so it might be, but
yeah,
I'm not certain, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
There are some claims.
Yeah, there are some like measurements in sake that don't necessarily have a unit of measure next to it. It's just a number, like with like the sake level meter. It's just,
now, the brewmaster has, when he was teaching me about things, he did, and we talked about acidity. He talked about wine as well. So it may be
that's probably
a similar measurement or similar system that they use in wine. So if it's grams per meter or liter, not meter, grams per meter, then it may be also grams per liter.
In tasting this and knowing what the sweetness level is, I mean, not that I know the grams per liter on it, but in tasting it and looking at that acidity number and looking at the acidity number here at 1.3 and 1.8 on this one, so that's really low acidity. And sake doesn't come across to me as a high acidic beverage.
That's one of the things that also separates it from wine.
Awesome, man. Thank you. No announcements yesterday, but all the announcements today. I guess nobody was going to the classes. All right, kind of a take two. So so talking about the acidities, and this seems right that sake is a lower acid beverage, but when you get to 3.8 grams, if it is grams per liter, which I think it is, we're getting into higher acidity. We're not getting into Riesling level at 5 and 6 and 7.
Yeah.
But we are definitely in an elevated
to a wine.
Yeah, we're in an elevated position compared to other sake. So that's where your balance is coming from with the sugar and the acid.
Yeah.
I always bring it back to wine somehow. And I mean, in some ways, this is a wine because the TTB classifies it as a wine. It goes through a fermentation process, a multiple parallel fermentation.
Yes,
so
it's the only thing that does.
Yeah, the only thing that does, and it doesn't get distilled. So the TTB classifies it as a wine, along with, honestly, cider is classified as mead is classified as a wine. And actually the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission groups cideries in with the G permit, which is a winery permit.
Interesting.
So yeah, the largest winery in Texas is actually a cidery.
Well, I don't think it doesn't
as far as production.
It doesn't surprise me. Texas isn't known for their wine.
No, we're not. But I will say, and my viewers know, I am a friend of Texas wine, and we have some fantastic stuff, but we also have some stuff that's not so good. You can find that everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody thinks Italy's great, but I'm sure they have some not so great wine too.
There is. But Rick, this has been great. It's been fun to be able to talk with you. All the sakes were wonderful. You did a great job.
Thank you, man.
It was cool. I'm actually talking to the brewmaster, right? Yeah. The person who brewed it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was the assistant brewmaster when I was there.
But yeah, you were there. So that's really cool. I appreciate it, man.
It's been a pleasure,
you so much.
Dude. Thank you for your time.
Enjoy.
I appreciate it.
All right.
So that's going to do it for today's show from the TRA. If you enjoy what I'm doing here, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and then tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.